Hello friends, wonders what dinosaurs taste like on a daily basis here, bringing you another Dota 2 video in which we're going to be talking about 4 bad habits that make you a much worse player. In particular, these are old habits that you may have had for a very long time and don't even realize are negatively impacting your MMR. And if you don't have them, then you certainly play with people that do, because they exist in almost every single bracket. Number 1. Stealing farm from carries. I am not talking about the case of somebody walking up to a creep wave that a carry is currently farming and stealing it in front of them. In that case, basically everyone realizes exactly what it is they're doing, and they're essentially just griefing their carry for one reason or another. I'm talking about situations where people do it without realizing it. The carry certainly realizes it, but other players don't. How does this happen? Well, people in Dota, especially non-carry players, are very in the moment when it comes to farming. Why is this? Well, there's just a lot happening in a Dota game, and usually non-carry positions aren't thinking that much about farm. So maybe they'll hit a camp here or there, but it's usually only on the way to a fight, to a lane, or to ward, something like that, whatever their next objective is. But basically, a common problem is that people will hit a camp that nobody else is at, and then about 10 seconds later, a carry arrives at that camp, and it's gone. So in the mind of a non-carry player, they didn't steal anything, because the carry wasn't at that camp. But in the mind of the carry player, they have nowhere to farm on the map because their idiot team is just taking that farm away from them. And in this case, I actually agree with the carry player. This is extremely detrimental, and depending on your rank, a lot of people would even consider this gameplay to be borderline griefing. I would even argue that people who have played the carry role before and swapped roles will be far more aware of this issue than a non-carry player and are much less likely to make this mistake. So what's the solution? Pay attention to the direction in which the carry is farming, and try not to farm camps that are in their path. Unless the minute mark is about to pass, and of course it's perfectly okay to farm those camps because they're going to respawn. You could also stack them if you want to be really nice to your carry. Generally, you should also stay out of the triangle because this is the safest farm on the map, and if you aren't a carry, chances are you probably shouldn't be here. Finally, often the reason that you are restricted to taking your carry's farm is because there isn't enough space on the map. But the catch-22 is that if there isn't enough space on the map and you aren't a carry, well, then it's your job to go feed if you have to create that space. In other words, you are taking your carry's farm because there isn't space, but there isn't space because you're taking your carry's farm. So if you find yourself in this situation, pick the side lane that the enemy team is not currently in and shove it out as far as possible, doing your best to survive for as long as possible. In a couple of minutes after doing this, even if you die, you'll notice that the enemy team will be on the opposite side of the map of your team, and your team will be much more spread out on the minimap, and they'll be farming. And that's because running down a side lane will almost always get the entire enemy team to run at you, and it will clear out the entire opposite side of the map. Number 2. Cores don't ward. I'd say that in about 90% of the coaching sessions that I've done, there is at least one death that could have been avoided with a simple ward, and usually it's a very crucial death. Usually I say something along the lines of, I don't even blame you for dying here. I would die here. Arteezy would die here. The problem is that Arteezy would have bought a ward for himself and avoided that death through vision. Before 7.22, there actually was an excuse to blame the position 5 if you died due to lack of vision. They cost a gold, and if you weren't a 5, there was no way in hell that you would be caught dead spending gold on a support item. But that's not the case anymore. They're totally free. Moreover, Dota strategy in general has gotten a lot more complicated since then. People have gotten better at the game. Sometimes your position 5 has the job of sitting in one lane, alone, keeping the tower alive for as long as possible while the enemy team tries to push. This is referred to as holding a tower. So, even if wards costed money, the optimal strategy would still be for the 5 to buy the ward, but for somebody else to place it. Otherwise, you're going to lose an important tower and possibly the game, just because a core is too lazy to ward. The solution to this problem is, you should set this as a rule for yourself. If you ever anticipate that you are going to play in an area for at least a couple of minutes, send yourself a ward to enable yourself to do that better. For example, At 5 minutes it turns night, and often the offlane becomes dangerous for at least a few minutes, but the offlaner wants to stay there to get farm and to also pressure the carry. This is a great time to send out a ward and put it in the river so you can see ganks coming from the position 4 or the mid laner. To give you a non-offlane example, let's say hypothetically you're an Ember Spirit and you don't think you're strong enough to fight yet, but you still want to get farm and you want to make space for your team. So what are you going to do? Well, you're going to probably go sit in a side lane and push it out and hope to not die while you're doing that and get a little bit of farm while you're at it. So why not do this and set up a ward in the jungle adjacent to the side lane so that way if enemies do come to kill you, you'll literally just see them and be able to remnant away. Number 3, staying in losing lanes. In Dota 2, there are 3 lanes. Generally, you win one, you go even in another, and then you lose the last lane. Dota is also a game of mistakes. There are unlimited options when it comes to throwing, from your carry getting pudge hooked into a tower, or getting ravaged by an enemy Rubik because your Tidehunter forgot to press his anchor smash. On top of this, Dota is also a game of timings. Some heroes suck early but destroy late, and some heroes suck at laning but are amazing at teamfighting. This is something that makes the game incredibly deep. There are very few heroes that are truly bad, obviously other than Pudge, because at some timing, any hero has a strength. So, with all of that being said, you will not just be sometimes losing lanes, you will frequently be in a losing lane. And the absolute worst thing that you can do in one of these inevitable losing lanes is to keep going back and dying over and over and over and over again until about 10 minutes when the laning stage finally ends and then the enemy team is so huge that you can't win the game. This is particularly frustrating if you're someone who is playing in a winning lane and then somebody else in your game completely obliterates your chances of winning by feeding when all they had to do was stand there, get experience, and not feed 7 deaths by 10 minutes. The solution to this problem is that if you don't like the way the lanes are going, then break the lanes. Screw it, don't sit in a bad situation. The way I always explain this is that at about 5 minutes into the game, think of all of the things that happen when compared with the 0-minute mark. For one, wards placed at the start of the game are despawning soon. It also turns to be nighttime, which reduces everybody's vision significantly. Most heroes, you have to be careful for Slarks, Bounty Hunters, things like that. Bounty Runes spawn, which are worth more than a one laning stage. Siege Creep spawn, which will take towers if you're not careful. Cores begin hitting level 6, so heroes have actual good abilities. Instead of having just one ability, they have 4. So what are the chances that the most optimal place to put all of your heroes on the map is the exact same place where they were at the start of the game? That is astronomically unlikely, and I refer to this period as the second laning stage. In every bracket, this happens. The higher and higher MMR you go, the faster this second laning stage will start, and the reason for that is because people will be good enough in these high brackets to recognize their strength and use it optimally on the map. So, with that being said, if you do not like your lane, you can initiate this change from the first to second laning stage to get a better situation for yourself. Maybe this is as simple as jungling as a carry who can jungle pretty quickly, such as like Terrorblade or Sven when he hits level 3 in his cleave, and then you can also give your support the lane, which will get you more golden experience across the map. Or maybe this is as complicated as the team secret strat of literally sending your offlaner as a support to support your carry. I mean, that's probably not going to work in pubs, but all I'm saying is that there is unlimited potential for where you can put your heroes. It doesn't really matter. What matters more is that you recognize that you are in a bad situation and you get yourself the hell out of it as soon as possible. Number 4, mids don't gank. The problem is that Dota is an old game. If you haven't played for several years, you are still surrounded by people who have played for several years. I, for instance, did not play Dota 1, and I still sometimes call Nature's Prophet Furion. That is pretty damn stupid, isn't it? This is exactly what the problem is. Even if you haven't played for years, we as Dota players still believe in some set-in-stone ideas that the community just kind of decided for us in the past. One of these lingering Dota boomer ideas that is unequivocally wrong these days is that mid is a lane that should be ganked to and not be ganked from. But mid, for the past few years, has been the most important tempo controlling role in the game, which basically just means that mid laners run around like cavemen, clubbing people in the head and making space for their carry to hit creeps. Thanks for that, OG, by the way. And it makes sense. Mid gets the most early farm and levels, so why not throw some guy there that will threaten the entire map and make a shitload of space with some guaranteed farm? The solution is that sometimes you just need to pick better heroes. If you have two farming side laners, which is going to happen in most brackets, and you aren't Puck, Queen of Pain, or a hero that has Spirit in its name, you will probably lose the game because there won't be enough camps to farm on the map. So, pick heroes that are better at being active. Other times, the solution is to build better items. Building a bottle lets you have mana to shove out the wave 10 to 15 seconds before the runes spawn, which in turn allows you to gank with said runes. One common tactic that you'll see people do in pubs these days, or I should say pro-level pubs, is to give the mid lane to a support and go jungle near a side lane, ganking it every single time somebody shows up in it. This is a super efficient strategy because it gets your support some levels, you'll avoid ganks because you'll be in the jungle and you'll be the one ganking, you'll continue getting farm, but best of all, you'll be off map. So the enemy team, they'll be scared of you and farm less, or they'll literally just run up and die to you. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. And I do want to give people an update on the garbage bin hobo situation because I know people have been asking a lot. And I'm very ashamed and embarrassed to admit that once again, they got me. There aren't garbage bin hobo lawyers. Those don't exist. Once again, it was the same thing with the insurance fraud. They wore the shirt that has the suit on it, the tuxedo, and I did think it was a real tuxedo again, a second time. And so they got me, and I'm out a lot more money. And so if you could support me by clicking to this ProGuides link that is in the description, and so they keep sending me pizzas, that would really help. I do stream every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern and play with viewers on there. So if you want to play some Dota, hit that up, and that would also help me with this scam situation that I'm involved in with these very violent hobos. And in any case, I appreciate you for watching, and hope to see you in another video.